Right, hey everyone. Back here for another Q&A session with Brook Henry, Ducati Bevel engineer. If you check my channel, there's several videos like this. And this one is a question from Jeff in the UK. And Jeff is asking about the Ritorno engine and the motorbikes.
Yep.
This is a very general question about what's the state of the engine? Can you buy an engine? Are there plans for production? And also for the motorbikes. He's familiar with the Hailwood. Are those gone? Are they sold? Are they, what's the deal? What about the Evo, the one that was on the Leno show? What's the state of that? I've had more than one person ask about these engines and these bikes.
Yeah.
And querying availability.
There's two things here.
Yeah.
There's the Ritorno engine is a V2 engine, and it is based on the exact engine that was in Hailwood's bike when he won the 78 Ironman. And that engine is quite rare, and that engine, we could do a whole session on that whole thing, and maybe one day we will, but basically that engine was built for endurance racing. It was designed by a couple of engineers at the Ducati factory, and NCR were the guinea pigs to test it, try it, run it, and it never went into production for commercial reasons and political reasons, but it didn't. All the production molds were made, all the drawings were made. There were a handful of engines made and given to NCR to assemble, I guess. Assemble. They certainly didn't. The factory organised all the machining and making the engine parts. NCR put them together, and they were beefed up where all NCR had got into endurance racing in a big way. And they were struggling because to get one of these things to run for 24 hours is a big call at full noise.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons. And so Franco Farnay, who was an engineer at the time, was very good friends with the guys at NCR, and he cured on paper all the issues that they were having. And of course the factory had seen all the failures that were happening there or whatever, for whatever reason, design faults, and they fixed them all. And that also carried over to the Millet engine, but again, another story. But basically, the engine that was in Hailwood's bike was a very special engine with all these things fixed, and I was very fortunate through just some events that happened by accident, if you like, to acquire all the drawings for that engine, all the original factory drawings, and the casting patterns. So I've got a shed full of casting patterns for that engine.
Right.
That was and when I initially the deal initially started, because I knew this guy had them because he worked there and he ended up with them, and I wanted him to cast me 5 engines so I could go racing. After I sold the business in 2005, I wanted to get 5 engines for my own race bikes because that's what I wanted to do. I started the business in 1979 to build my own engine. That's why I did it.
Right.
That's why I did it. And I'm only doing it at 70 years old now.
Okay.
And I have tried so hard to finish that engine. It's in here.
Yeah.
And I'm putting my engine inside that NCR engine. So I'm using all the knowledge, the information, the new tech that I have learned and know about, and putting it in that engine. So that basically explains that engine.
Right.
That is the Ritorno engine.
Yes.
And it is very different to the Hailwood engine.
Oh.
So the Hailwood bike.
You mean your...
My Hailwood bike, there's a huge thing again, another story. The Hailwood bike is an exact replica of Mike Hailwood's bike when it crossed the finish line and got the checkered flag. We call it the checkered flag bike. So nothing that came out of the factory since that day is anything close to that bike.
Yeah.
So initially they were only going to make 200. They made 7,200 or so. But not one of the Hailwoods that the factory made has got that engine out.
Right.
Now, there were some, they did do another run of that engine for NCR, and NCR did build some NCR race bikes, but they weren't the Hailwood bike. They were different.
Right.
Because they weren't painted up like the Hailwood, and they had like slightly different spec and whatever. But basically, Hailwood's bike was the same bore and stroke as your bike and Ross's Dharma.
Yeah.
86.4 by 74.4, 86 mil, and I don't think I know a motorcycle that has got so much mystique around it than Hailwood's bike.
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's because he died and tragically, etc. But what I entered into so going back a step, I had the engine, and I said, look, I'm going to make these engines, and I did. I made a handful of 5 engines by hand, in my own shop.
Yeah.
I had the casters, had them all cast, and I machined them on a Bridgeport.
So you got them off that guy who you asked in Italy?
I did get some castings when I got the drawings and when I got the drawings and I got the patterns. I did get some cases and such, but I had to do quite a bit of casting work to make complete engines. And I made 5 engines, which I can tell you exactly where they are.
Right.
And I was in America at the time, and I know Miguel Galuzzi as a friend, who is he's the designer of the Monster.
Oh, yeah.
For the Ducati factory.
Yeah.
And he's a really, really nice man, and really genuinely interested in motorcycles, and a bit like me, he's passionate. And I was invited to a lunch meeting with him with another friend of mine that is into carbon and composite work in Paul Taylor in Los Angeles. And he said, I think McGill would be really interested in your story with the Hailwood engine bike and project. And I said, oh yeah. Did you tell him that we were thinking of doing road bikes with that engine? And he said, oh yeah. He said, we come down. So we went to lunch with him, and McGill talked to me about it, and he said, Brook, you know what you should do? He said, you are the only guy in the world that can build a Hailwood replica with the right engine in it.
Right.
You're the only guy.
Yeah.
Because that engine don't exist. And the factory never put that engine.
And genuine NCR engines are...
They are the same engine. They are, but
are they around?
Yeah, there's a handful of them around. There might be 20 in the world.
Okay. And
so,
that's the nearest thing otherwise to the engine is
that's
actual
it.
NCR.
And I mean, with sports motorcycles were sent one of those bikes to give to Hailwood.
Yeah.
Steve went asked the factory for a bike. The factory went to NCR and said, one of those bikes, 2 of the bikes, whatever, that you are building to go endurance racing, guess what? We're gonna give it to Hailwood to go on there. Right. Right. I'm not sure that they were that over keen about that.
Yeah.
Because but there's so much about that bike, Rob, that is people don't understand. Like the bodywork is not owned. The shape and the bodywork is not owned by Ducati. Not owned by them. They didn't draw it. They didn't design it, and they didn't make it. The Napoti and Karachi in the NC out of NCR, and there was another guy in it, Roberto, in the beginning, but he left, and the R they changed to racing. So NCR,
Right.
Nupoti Karachi Racing.
Okay.
They carved that bodywork out of foam in their workshop with a carving knife.
Yeah.
And they used Virginio Ferrari as a model to sit on it to get the size right. Split the dummy out, but
Yeah.
that is where that bodywork was conceived, made, and they made it so they could get it off. It's held by a rubber strap under the steering, goes under the steering head and up onto two things the back of a tank.
Yeah.
That's it on the front.
Yeah.
It sits on a frame at the back with one bolt in it, basically, and that's what pretty well holds it on. And it's got over 25 litres of fuel in it, and these days there is no way they would get that through scrutineering, because you imagine 25 litres, it would just literally rip it off the bottom. It crashed. So it's just bizarre the way that whole bike became into existence, and Hailwood, what he did, and it's pretty incredible. But so this bike we call the checkered flag bike. I went with my friend Giorgio, who worked at NCR, and he took me to all the places that existed, and they were sons of the original people that made the parts for NCR, the exhaust systems, the footrest, all that sort of stuff. And he took me, and I met either their sons or the real person.
Yeah.
This guy.
Oh, yeah.
We went and saw him, but he's dead, and we saw his son.
Yeah.
And he had thrown all the moulds away.
Okay.
And he makes skateboards.
Oh, yes.
And he's into skateboards.
Okay.
Because the bubble on a Hailwood, because they made the bodywork, the forks, the distance between the forks here is different on those bikes.
On the NCRs?
Yep.
Yeah.
And on Hailwood's bike. And the triple clamps are off a motocross bike.
Right.
The top one off one bike and the bottom one off another bike.
Right.
And it's got 4 bolt holes up from under here that hold the guard on, because a motocross bike has the guard bolted under here.
Yes.
So all of those things came to light. So it's got...
And have you done that?
100%.
You've done that. So
100%.
the bike has that.
I've cast the triple clamps.
Bloody hell. So there's a detail that we didn't know
So
about.
the front wheel was made by Campagnola, and the front wheel is narrower because the forks are narrower, and they did it for endurance racing to get speed and and the flaring. If you look at the bike straight on, it's like a sailfish going through the water.
And you've replicated that detail.
We have made the moulds. With all the moulds for the fairings, to get the shape right, we had to get photographs, and we had to be very careful what photograph we were using, and we had to get them digitally scanned and then digitally modeled to get the measurements right. Because the existing bike and the existing stuff that's left around has either been moulded off something else, smashed, repaired, just a horror show.
Right.
And the book that we wrote,
yes,
there's a lot of info in that, but we haven't actually put as much as we could have put in there because we didn't have enough. We couldn't have. But all these little details, the steering stop system, everything is different on that bike. But that bike isn't like that anymore, because it's old, and it's been through several owners. It's been rolled, bowled, crashed, burnt, you name it. So to research and build that bike was hard work.
Right.
But going back to McGill in America, in Los Angeles, he said, look, you want to do something with that? He said, you need to make replicas of Hailwood's bike, because they don't exist, and even the bike that does exist is nothing like it was when it went over the line. And there would be people that would buy that bike. And he said, because I showed him a rendering, a drawing that my good friend John Keogh, who designed the bodywork for my Squallow bikes,
which I've just heard about, and I've got a note about those.
So I've brought John to Australia.
Okay.
He sat down in front of a big block of clay, made the body. I said, yes, John, that's good, but before we do that, we start with the drawing. John draws it,
Right.
and I say, no, do that, do this.
Mm.
More. John Keogh was also involved in the Hailwood project
Okay.
because we needed someone who could draw
Yeah.
and to get the shape and the body and everything
Yeah.
right. He said, look, you need to do this bike because you are the only guy that can put the right engine in that bike and make it. So John Keogh, which is why I mentioned him, went, because he was in England, he went and talked to Pauline and David Hailwood
Yes.
and said, look, this is what we got, and we would like to do a tribute to the husband, and we want to do it above board. We don't want to do it at the back door, and we can't do a lot of them, but we can do some.
Yeah.
And she was, I have to say, bless her soul, she is one of the most amazing women that I've met, other than my wife, of course.
Yes. Of course.
And I mean that. She was an incredible woman to get through what she got through and keep the Hailwood name and family going. She passed away about over 12 months ago.
Right.
And when, or maybe a bit more than that. When she came to the Isle of Man in 18 when we released that bike.
Yeah.
And she gave us an official, which is still signed and in place. She gave us an official contract to produce 12 of those replicas.
Yeah.
So that's the number, and his number was 12. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
And she did it
I see.
because she wanted the bike to be remembered,
Yeah.
and she did it to help fund Mike Jr. through his schooling and career.
Right.
So, and she made me promise that
Yeah.
I would do the right thing,
Yeah.
and she trusted me.
Yeah.
And Steve Wynn put in a really nice word for me with Pauline and said, look, this is a good idea, Pauline.
Yeah.
You know, you can trust Brook, and I don't want anything out of it. It'd be really great to see this happen.
So if you're wondering why those 12 are expensive, there's your answer.
That's what.
They're a bargain.
They're a
Quite
bargain.
frankly,
They're a bargain.
they're a bargain.
They are a
Look,
bargain.
are they all sold? What happened?
No. So
Are they made?
there are 3 bikes built, and
Okay.
I've got another 3 underway.
Yeah.
But I am not advertising them and trying to sell them desperately.
Mm.
If someone wants one, 100% they can order it. No
Yeah.
problem. I will take an order for it, and I'll tell them how long it'll take, and until I order it, I won't know what that is. However, there is also another contract in place with an Australian
Yeah.
to make a movie about Mike Hailwood's
That was
life.
the next question about the movies.
So that contract
Yes.
is in place,
Yes.
and the movie hasn't been made, but the contract has been renewed
Okay.
a few times. One time that not,
Right.
but so their intention, their full intention, is to make the movie, and I have really great guys.
Yeah.
They've talked about it publicly, so I can tell you who it is. It's Eric Banner is going to, he's going to play Hailwood, but Robert Connolly, his partner in the movies that they write, is very involved in the movie, and I've met them both, and really great guys, and we've talked about it, and we're just sort of sitting back. Everything has to be in place. Like the funding's got to be in place. I think it's okay to say that the script is written.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen it, obviously. So it's just a waiting game, really.
They would have a couple of bikes available.
They have told me what they would like me to do.
Yes.
And what they would require, and I said yes, I could do that for you if you wanted me to, and they said, well, that's good, that ticks that box.
This is our only chance to make it with a genuine sort of a bike,
Yeah.
not just a mod.
So they would have drone bikes for long shots
Right.
that got electric starts and stuff on them, which they do in any mood.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they have the other thing to do, close ups and whatever. So
Nice.
so look, it's a lot better chance than pie in the sky for sure. But it's not done. But I think it will. I'm sure that it will get done.
Yeah.
And when it does get done, I will have the opportunity to do those bikes, and they will become very collectible
Yeah.
because of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say we
That's it.
talked
Genuine
about
evidence.
earlier that they're cheap.
Yeah.
Mate, if someone buys one now,
Yeah.
they will get
Right.
because they will double.
Right.
They will double.
So they are orderable.
Yeah.
There's a fixed limit of 12 no matter what, because
There is.
you've made that promise.
And
that's what it is.
You'd have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which numbers are available, but I can tell you now that number 12 is sold
Yeah.
and delivered, and number 1 is sold,
Right.
and
Of course, the 12 and the 1 would be the desirable.
the 12 and the 1 are the most desirable, and those people are very smart because
Yeah.
when that movie comes out, believe me.
How about the engines separately on their own?
Okay, so the engine separate
And or the Evo or whatever you do.
Well,
in that regard.
so I guess most of your viewers would be familiar with the Jay Leno episode with the Evo. Now, the Evo is not powered by that engine that's in Hailwood's bike, but it looks like it is. It comes out of the same mold, but that's a V2 engine, and it's called a Ritorno, return in Italian.
Right.
The Ritorno engine is available in a 750 and
That's a round case style, that isn't it?
it's that same
They're all
shape.
round case
exactly the
size.
same case. Yeah, it's not square case by any means,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more round case than square case.
Right.
So the 994 is 1,000. So I do it in a 994 and I do it in a 750 and the 750 really, I think do have a lot of inquiries for that on road bikes, but most people go to a 984, 984, and that uses all late model technology. So you can have it with titanium con rods. It's plain bearing crankshaft, one piece crankshaft. It's the valve angle in the cylinder heads is 52 degrees, which is the same as a DS1000 or DS1100. So the motor, the geometry of the motor is based on and the cylinder heads and the Desmo is based on a DS1000 or 1100, same thing. And there's a lot of components out of that engine that I use. Well, I say a lot. There's the rockers, all the cylinder head gear, crankshafts, the rest of it I make.
Right.
And the included valve angle and the combustion chamber and the piston crown and all that is my own design based around that DS1000 engine. And we also do, which we've got several underway, and there are some already built and out in the traffic as our prototypes, and the customers are just over the moon. And I've ridden these bikes and I've had journalists ride them, and they just cannot believe it. So I do a thing, what we call a drop-on kit. So this guy or you could order this kit, the cylinder head, the cylinder and the piston.
Oh, so you get a new top end.
You get a new top end, Ritorno top end, and it's 88mm bore.
Right.
So it will go straight on to.
It becomes a 1000cc bike, basically.
Well, it doesn't become 1,000. Actually, it comes a 970. But what it becomes is this
Close
bike.
enough.
When that bike left the factory, it was, let's say, on my dyno, which is an R&D dyno, it would be roughly 50 horsepower, and on most dynos it would probably be maybe 60. If you put a Ritorno top end on that, it would be absolutely streetable. It will run like a clock. It would be smooth. It would start. It would be just like this. You can put those on if you want.
But otherwise,
you can put these on it.
You can use your DeLoreans or the flat slides.
The exhaust system will bolt straight in. The carburetors will go straight on. If you use those carburetors,
go like
your 60 horsepower bike turns into 110.
Right.
Like that. And we built a couple.
Yeah.
Put them out, and the guys that own the bikes just go, mate, that is.
How exciting is that?
That is.
New top end, use what 80% of the rest of the bike as is,
Well,
and away you go.
That's
available to order.
You can order that, and we've got kits in production.
You've got kits in production.
Kits in production. Right?
Back to the bikes. Can someone order a bike?
So, the bike is called, that particular bike is called an Evo.
Yes.
Which is a green frame, an Evolution green frame.
Right.
And it has got a V2 Ritorno. So it's powered, if you look on the screen, it says powered by Ritorno.
Yes.
Ritorno. So, and it's got the crankcases and it's got all the good gearing. So it's over 100 horsepower.
Yeah.
And you can order it with whatever spec you want. I have 5 of those in production right now. There is a guy in the UK that has been waiting far too long for it, but
I think I know that person. He contacted me through my page a couple of years ago. He said, "Oh, look, I've ordered one," and a friend of mine.
Yes. Well, the friend is bowed out because he got very ill.
Oh, right.
Very ill.
That's a shame.
So that bike I'm finishing because I'd already bought all the components for it. And I've got all the components for that bike.
Oh, so that one's potentially available.
That is available.
Right.
It's John. I think his surname, but John's really good guy. And I actually went and saw John. I met John and went and saw him. And so his bike is in production. There's one for a guy in Tasmania and there's one for a guy in Western Australia.
Okay.
And those bikes are in production now, and they should have been finished, but they're not for one reason or another. Obviously, COVID. We all blame COVID, and that did hugely affect it. But my personal health took a nosedive.
Yes.
Which has come good, thank goodness. We want to hope that stays good. And the other thing that has been difficult, Rob, is getting my machine shop up to where I can machine.
You've got a whole lot of new machinery.
Yeah, and a machine in a sustainable quantity. And there are engines sold, just engines.
Yes.
I've got a guy in Germany that's ordered an engine that's an absolute hot rod, and that should have been delivered, but it hasn't. He's been unbelievably supportive and patient. So we are right at the moment. I've never been as advanced as I am in building these bikes and engines and having the top end kits available. That is what Brook Henry and V2 are about.
Right.
That is what we want to do, and that is the prize.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to take my eye off the prize and get sidetracked. And in all due respect to Ross, I love doing this work, but I cannot continue to do this work.
No.
I'm too old in my life to employ 12, 15 people to do this stuff and keep the Ritorno project going.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I want to, my passion is my own engine, and the Hailwood bikes are pretty special and pretty neat, but my own engine and my own bike is good. I will say that there are other models of the Evo that we have drawn and are on paper.
Yes.
And that John Keogh has designed. And when I showed that to a particular guy, another customer and good friend, he said, "Sign me up, I want one." Then I said, "Well, we've got to get this one done and out there and the customer satisfied, but we will definitely build it." And what it is I'd like this one that I'm talking about is actually a sport with a Ritorno engine in it, and it's a V2 version of it. But I want to do a V2 version of the Dharma.
Now,
I would build a Dharma
Okay.
and how I want a Dharma, and we'll
Right.
have a Ritorno engine in it.
Right.
So if I live long enough, we'll get the Ritorno, we'll get the Ritorno engine Evos, which is an evolution of the green frame.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get the evolution of the Sport, which has to have a name yet, and an evolution of the Dharma. 100% I will build a Dharma and a Sport as long as I live the next year or so.
Yeah.
Whether we take orders and put them in production will depend on money and health.
Mm.
So that is really the Ritorno engine and the Hailwood thing. So we've got the Hailwood, which is the same spec as Hailwood's bike, which is the same spec as that, and I mean the same spec as that. The bore, the stroke, the valve angle. People talk about re-angled heads from NCR. That is just absolutely rubbish.
Right.
Absolute rubbish. There is no document, and I know the people well that work there, that were personal friends of them. They never re-angled a cylinder head for a Bevel drive ever.
Right.
They never made a re-angled head. I'm sure plenty of people have. I've done it.
Yeah, yeah.
But NCR never put a bike together and raced it with a re-angled head. And people say, I've got NCR re-angled heads. No, they don't. I don't know what they are, and neither do they. But I can categorically prove they didn't.
Right, right.
Without any doubt. That's fact, not fiction.
Yes, well, you heard it here. This is the real stuff.
Well,
this is the real story.
that's something else, Rob, that I want to make very clear.
Mm.
If it's my opinion, I will say it's my opinion. If it's fact, it'll be backed up with either data or engineering fact. I do get very frustrated with people making statements that sound like they're fact because they are presented that way, but they're not fact. They are their opinion. And everyone's allowed to have an opinion. I've got no problem with that. I do have a problem with people stating a thing as a fact and it's their opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
So, sorry, Rob, just one other thing I'd like to add here also for Jeff. The getting the workshop up to speed or finding people that can do what I need them to do, which is also a good way forward. There are some components that I want to put in the Ritorno engine that are absolutely crucial to it, and one of the main ones is an electric start. And the electric start that is being built for the Ritorno engine also fits a 750 GT. It fits your bike, and it fits.
Does it have a new side cover, or how does
yes,
it
it comes with a side cover, but it's a bolt-on. So there are a lot of people that own Bevel drives that have also had a heat replacement or a knee replacement.
Yeah.
They don't want to get rid of their bike. They love their bike, but they have to get rid of it and go and buy a push-button bike.
Right.
And we are just inundated. We've been inundated with people that want us to do an electric start. So I've said, okay, we're going to do it. We are investing tens of thousands of dollars in doing this, and the prototypes are built.
Right.
The prototypes are built and being tested now, and it doesn't run a chain like the old dinosaur.
Right.
It runs gears. And a compound.
But it's the same arrangement.
A compound gear train, very small starter motor like that.
Yeah.
I did toy with the idea of moving the starter motor, but it's not a Dharma starter motor. It's a small starter motor, and it comes with a dry clutch version like this. So it's a dry clutch version, and you can bolt it on to.
You could bolt it onto that. You mean?
Yep,
You could bolt
it'll
it
bolt onto that bike.
Right.
So and it'll bolt onto John's Sport. John.
Oh right, yeah.
So it'll bolt onto that.
Right, right.
It'll bolt onto anything that.
He's going to need one, so.
He does. That's a classic case.
Yeah.
So the chap that had the plug problem.
Yes. Earlier.
He's got a 76, I think
That was
it was.
Patrick.
Patrick has got a 76,
Yes.
hasn't he? It'll bolt straight onto that.
Right.
So I know putting electric start on an SS is not really what you want to hear, but if you love the bike and you want to ride it and you're having a knee replacement or a hip replacement, it's nice to have electric start.
The owners are getting on.
So that is being a bit of a bottleneck to get the Ritorno engines done,
Right.
because most of the Evos want electric start.
They do, right.
they won't let you start.
Okay.
So there you go.
There we go. Excellent. Well, thank you again. Thank you very much, Brooke. It's a fantastic answer.
Thank you for having me, and yeah.
Once again, we've got more videos like this on my channel, so check them out, and we'll see you in the next one.